Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about the Dungeons & Dragons and the 1988 Willow world, Andowyne, and why it should be the Dungeons & Dragons official setting. And the reason why it should be the Dungeons & Dragons official setting is Dungeons & Dragons setting Malaise. The reason is setting Malaise. Let's talk about setting Malaise. Okay. All right, so we need to talk about the Dungeons & Dragons editions for a minute. Okay, so what have the Dungeons & Dragons official settings? What has each Dungeons & Dragons editions done well? Okay, so first edition was amazing. What first edition did right was first edition got the rules perfect. Like, you know, at the macro level, it got it perfect. Of course, there was a couple T's missed and I's crossed. But at the macro level, the rules were amazing. Amazing's a better word. The rules were amazing. It really knocked the rules out of the park. And it got scale. First edition, for Dungeons & Dragons, you know, there were a lot of people playing it. It was a lot before we hit second edition. It was tremendous. Okay. What did second edition of the game get right? Second edition got art right. Second edition elevated the art from Gary Gygax's friends and the people who knew people in TSR to like real professional artists, and it really slam dunked the art. The art really got very, very professional and really world class in Dungeons & Dragons second edition. What did third edition get right? It got openness and collaboration right. The OGL will never be forgotten. We're still garnering benefits from the OGL today. People are able to, you know, DM's Guild came about because of the OGL that happened in third edition. Ryan Dancy's work, I'll never forget what he established. The OGL changed tabletop role-playing games forever. There's no two ways about it. The open gaming license and that model that came about with third edition was truly incredible, and I for one will never forget it. Openness and collaboration that was established within third edition was incredible. What did fourth edition get right? Absolutely nothing. Fourth edition is the edition that the game survived. I'm a fan of fourth edition. I liked it, but the reality is it threatened the very existence of the game, and you can't pretend that didn't happen. It really did happen. It was very, very real. It was a very serious threat, and you've got to acknowledge it and not make pretend or make excuses. It was a very, very real problem. Fourth edition is the edition that the game survived. Okay, what did fifth edition get right? Okay, well, fifth edition got right was streaming. It got right survival. So Mike Merle saved the game from fourth edition, patched over the massive cracks in the foundation that and did more than just patch over the massive cracks. He laid a new foundation. Like he tore up the old flagstone and put in a new foundation and gave the game survival. And the fact that the game was there for survival, 5th edition was there when streaming hit, all right, and streaming games. And when YouTube hit, and streaming is the future of Dungeons & Dragons. There's no two ways about it. I'm not even pretending anymore. There are far, far, far more streaming games than there are physical table games. No two ways about it. And guess what? The last announced setting for Dungeons & Dragons is Wildmount, which is Taladore, which is Critical Role setting, right? It's Matt Mercer's setting. So that's a streaming setting, right? Streaming is the future of the game. This is no longer a debate. This is a thing. This is a thing. Here we are. This is where we've arrived. Okay? So 5th edition got survival right, and it got streaming right, and essentially it got scale right. So 5th edition is scaled, and at this point, there's more people playing Dungeons & Dragons than any point in the history of the game, bar none, right? It's a worldwide phenomenon, and also, it got mainstream acceptance right. So that's what all the settings got. Now, if you notice, what wasn't in there? Not a single edition has ever gotten setting right. No edition has ever had a rockstar, awesome, good setting. Setting has been the Achilles heel for Dungeons & Dragons from the beginning and remains a massive problem to this day. I don't think Dungeons & Dragons has ever solved the problem of setting. And there are many, many reasons why. Let's talk about them, okay? First and foremost is the Tolkien break, okay? So Tolkien inspired Gary Gygax to no end. Tolkien was Gygax's main dude. Tolkien Gygax just loved Tolkien's work, and in many ways, Dungeons & Dragons is systemized Tolkien. Excuse me. So you have that there, right? But now, and Tolkien's great, but we got a problem nowadays. There's a rising tide of decolonizing Dungeons & Dragons. And Tolkien is awesome on everything but intersectionality. Tolkien is terrible on intersectionality. And frankly, I think Dungeons & Dragons is about to leave Tolkien behind. So Middle-earth can really no longer serve as a valid default setting for Dungeons & Dragons. And also, Dungeons & Dragons never did the work to make Tolkien an official setting. They should have done that. They could have done that. There's no reason they couldn't have made that work. It should have been a no-brainer. It should have worked. Should have been able to connect those dots, but they never did. And what's even worse is Tolkien's estate actually allowed other much, much, much smaller publishers to make official Lord of the Ring games. Decipher made a Lord of the Ring games. I think ICE made a Lord of the Ring games. Cubicle 7 now has the property for Lord of the Ring games. And you could play, like, there's some nonsense, adventure book where you can play an official 5th edition. Actually, it's not even official. You could play a 5e Lord of the Ring game, but, that's not a Dungeons & Dragons game. It's 5e, right? Like, that gets strange. You can't put D&D on these products. Like, it's really strange. And again, goes back to how important the 3rd edition OGL was. Very, very strange. So, there was a missed opportunity there, and that opportunity is gone. You absolutely could not do an official Lord of the Rings game now, because there's just too much. The community has grown too much, and intersectionality is too important, okay? All right. So, basically, at that point, what are the other problems? So, there are also very problematic settings, like Oriental Adventures. I'm not sure you can bring that back. You'd have to shoot some kind of weird gap. People are like, what? What's the name of that? Like, that's... And there's other ones, like Al-Qadim, and, there's certain settings that they'll probably never, ever, ever touch again. Period. Right? There are other ones where they're just kind of failed, like Thunder Rift. Like, is that coming back? I don't think so. There are other ones that are much beloved, like Dark Sun, that Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro Gaming, absolutely refuses to give us. Spelljammer, all right? 5th edition, people have been begging for them to relaunch Spelljammer, have been begging for them to relaunch Dark Sun, have been begging for them to relaunch Planescape. They absolutely refuse, right? They're like, hey, here's Matt Mercer's whatever, Talidore. Woo, I don't know. Like, right? So there are ones that are good that people want, but that Hasbro Gaming doesn't want to do. So you have a disconnect there. There's ones that live in this quasi-weird world of success-failure, and that is Eberron, right? So Eberron, we just got another Eberron book, but we actually got 2 books. There was a false start, and there was like this Eberron release that was like a practice that was called a product, and then it wasn't a product, and then the real book came. But is it an a setting book, or is it an adventure book? Again, 5th edition has really let us down on this. So, setting is it is a mess. Setting has always been a mess for Dungeons & Dragons. It's never been handled right, okay? And here's the thing. This is why there's such a huge opportunity for the Willow world to become the official Dungeons & Dragons setting. Andowyne is perfect. It is, in many ways, it lacks the problem of Tolkien's world. has many of the exciting parts and cool parts of Tolkien's world, and really is very nice and useful and livable in. You can live in it, you know, like Tolkien's world, but it doesn't have the problems of Tolkien's world, but it's got excitement behind it. It's a really good, shiny, new, modern world that has a lot of the cool elements of Tolkien's world. And so, and I really think that this would solve so many problems. It could just solve so many problems that Dungeons and Dragons has with setting overall, and it could serve as a really cool foundation, a new flagstone, and it gives them a chance to get setting right, because I truly believe setting has never been done right in Dungeons and Dragons. It is absolutely the Achilles heel of the game. Now, is Andowyne perfect? No, right? The Willow, you know, the 1988 Willow world, there would be some issues, right? I'm not going to pretend there wouldn't, but I think it would be by far the closest thing we got to a really, truly epic, really, truly awesome Dungeons and Dragons setting. And the best way to understand this is through Bitcoin currency, fiat currency. So Bitcoin, okay, the Bitcoin and the U.S. dollar. Let's talk about it like straight at the targets, right? So Bitcoin's worth like $9,000 today, right? And people are like, what? A long string of numbers that exists on a USB drive is worth $9 grand? Yes, it is. Okay, and people are like, how is that, right? A single double eagle gold coin, right? A 1 ounce U.S. standard double eagle gold, you know, 1 ounce coin is worth like $1,600, right? And so you can get like 4 or 5 or 6 of them for a single Bitcoin. That's $9,000 worth of dollars, right? It's incredible. Like the Bitcoin is through the roof, okay? And people are like, what the heck is going on? How is a long string of numbers worth $9,000? Well, here's the thing. It's utter nonsense that a long string of numbers and letters is worth $9,000. So why is that? Well, here's the issue. It's not that Bitcoin is worth $9,000, and it's not the strength of Bitcoin. It's the weakness of the U.S. dollar, okay? U.S. dollar used to be backed by real gold. Now it's not. It's just backed by an idea, right? And the FDIC, you know, but the reality is there are safety nets, and the U.S. government is behind it, right? But it used to be backed by real gold. And the second you took it off there, it weakened it. It weakened that fiat U.S. currency. And as soon as you took that U.S. dollar off of that really solid foundation, you allowed an opening for nonsense. And nonsense can stand, right? And can stand as far better than some of the things that really were good, right? Like, but that's where I'm kind of at. Like, I'm saying Andowyne is a much, 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 much better foundation than Forgotten Realms. It truly is, because it comes with a lot of benefits. It comes with George Lucas. It comes with Disney Plus. It comes with young stars who are in massive popular television shows that are going to be made. It comes with a history with Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer. It comes with the ability to put on a show and actually see it put on a movie and watch it. It comes with goodwill from people who saw the original. Andowyne is a real world. And, you know, Willow world. And Forgotten Realms is just it's a bad copy Greenwood made of Tolkien's world. And Dungeons and Dragons has its fiat currency of Forgotten Realms. They never made it. They never backed it in gold, right? And it's made it so that we now need to go look for a better option, a Bitcoin option. And Andowyne is the Bitcoin option. Andowyne is a good, solid foundation to make as the official setting for Dungeons & Dragons. The one I didn't mention, too, is it has intersectionality, which Tolkien's world and a lot of Dungeons & Dragons settings don't. And by the way, why not stick with Matt Mercer's world? Matt Mercer is a single point of failure, in my opinion. They're already too deep with him, in my opinion. They are resting too much of the success on one person. I think Matt Mercer now stands as a single point of failure. Plus, if you're going to Matt Mercer, right, for fans, come on, right? This guy's Matt Mercer's a voice actor, right? Warwick Davis was in Star Wars. Let's stop pretending, right? If you want a celebrity, go get a real one, right? So that's my take on it. Andowyne is much, 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 much better as a foundation, as the official setting of Dungeons & Dragons than anything Matt Mercer could ever produce. And the reality is, Matt Mercer's doing great with Critical Role. He's got a nice little entertainment studio that he's building there, right? But it ain't no Disney. Let's not pretend, right? Let's go get the real deal. Andowyne, Willow World, 1988 fantasy world. That's the future of Dungeons & Dragons. All that is my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion on the subject. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a very wonderful millennium.